It comes most often at night. That niggling memory, gnawing in some corner of your mind like a rodent chewing the corners of the drywall. The memory of some brightly lit cartoon funland, or world of puppets. A memory of a TV show you would watch, seated cross-legged on the living room floor with the fixed enthusiastic attention only a child can give. Attention that you wish now you perhaps hadn't given so freely. For there's something about that show, something about the discordant music, the details of the characters, their motivations and the storylines, the fixed maniacal grins that seems, looking back, to be altogether too sinister to be a children's show. You try to block the memory out, and yet, there in the back of your mind, most often at night, the puppet's fixed grin keeps on smiling. Net nostalgia form. Television. Sky Shale 033. Subject. Candle Cove local kids show? Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. Mike_Painter, 65. Subject. Response. Candle Cove local kids show? It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland and was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Sky Shale 003. Subject. Response. Candle Cove local kids show? Yes! Okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls, real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll. Looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF though. Jaren_2005. Subject. Response. Candle Cove local kids show? Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean, Sky Shale. I think Candle Cove ran for only a couple months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was calliope music playing constantly. Don't remember the girl's name, Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice. Sky Shale 033. Subject. Response. Candle Cove local kids show. Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the Laughingstock in Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Ed Wine voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Mike_Painter 65. Subject response. Candle Cove local kids show? Haha, I remember now too. Do you remember this part, Sky Shale? Quote unquote, you have to go inside. Sky Shale 033. Subject response. Candle Cove local kids show? Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was. And the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his 2 eyes askew and that flopping foam jaw, and the fishing line that opened and closed it. It just looks so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above really tall, narrow teeth. Kevin_Hart. Subject response. Candle Cove local kids show? I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when the show was on. Nightmare fuel. Jaren_2005. Subject response. Candle Cove local kids show? That wasn't the villain, the puppet with the mustache. That was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the mustache. I used to think that meant he had only one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe what they let us watch back then. Kevin_Hart. Subject response. Candle Cove local kids show. Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of a kid's show are we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the skin taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings, just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape, and his glass eyes that were too big for his skull. Christ almighty. Skyshale033, subject response. Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin? Mike_Painter, 65, subject response. Yeah, I think so. Remember his mouth didn't open and close, his jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the skin taker didn't look at the girl but at the camera and said, "To grind your skin." Skyshale033, subject response. I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were just screaming. And the puppets and marionettes were just flailing spastically, and all just screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. Kevin_Hart, subject response. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode. Skyshale033, subject response. No, not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally just standing in place crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin_Hart, subject response. Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed. Jaren_2005, subject response. Oh God, yes. The little girl Janice, I remember seeing her shake, and the skin taker screaming through his gnawing teeth, his jaw connering so wildly I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. Mike_Painter 65, subject response. I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s when I was 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kid's show, Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why, and she said, "Because I used to think it was so strange that you said, 'I'm gonna go watch Cove now, Mom,' and then you would tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show." And that was Cove. That was a legitimately really good story and creepypasta. I loved it. Sorry if it was a little hard to follow. It was formatted like a forum of sorts, kind of like Reddit or something like that. I tried not to get too repetitive with the subject response, Cove local kitcha. But yeah, I thought that was really good writing, super simple, and a good spook, I gotta say. The writing was fantastic. I thought the way they described Cove made it seem like it was an actual show, with like all like the puppets and low budget stuff. I thought that was super cool. And yeah, the two main spooks with it just being static dead air and the screaming episode I thought were done really well. And it's kind of cool to see like a creepypasta formatted like a bunch of people messaging each other on a message board of sorts. And I don't really have any particular nitpicks with the story. Yeah, there were typos, but they actually make sense in this story because people messaging each other on a forum, you know? And it kind of makes the story even more believable in a way. They were very minor typos as well, so it's not like it's distracting or anything. Normally I would never forgive typos, don't get me wrong, but when it's a stylistic choice, it checks out. I honestly wish I had more to say because that was a fantastic story, but I can't really think of anything more to say. It was just a super solid, awesome story, and I think it's the second best I've read so far. I did like Smile Dog more, but this is still a super solid story, and I don't really know what it could have improved on. Maybe it could have been slightly better if it was longer, but like, I can't really hold that against the story in any sort of way, you know? With all that being said, I hope that you guys had a good time listening. Please take care of yourselves tonight, and have a great day.